Ricky Darnell Ross, better known as Freeway Rick Ross, sits down with BLACKTREE TV's own Jamal Finkley and candidly talks about how he became one of the world's biggest drug lords with the help of the US government during the 1980s. It's been estimated that Ross's drug empire expanded across all 50 states and accumulated a gross income of more than $2 billion. In part one of this exclusive sit-down interview, we find out just how much truth there is to that urban legend. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the show today. Today I have the real Rick Ross. I don't mean to implicate anything with anybody else, but I mean a lot of people call you that, in different circles, and your name has always been like sort of urban legend to a lot of people and everything else. But right now, there's so much going on that's kind of in the circle of you. You have a book that's out that's real compelling, a documentary coming out, and a feature film where they're depicting your character. So I thought it was a good time to really get to know the real Rick Ross and find out what you're really about. So welcome to the show, and thanks for coming by. First,
thank you for having me and having so much background.
Right. I've as any journalist, I looked at several interviews of people that talk to you over the years, and everybody always wants to talk about, hey, how many Rolexes, how many cars, everything you had, and do you think, like in this day, that the activities that you purportedly participated in, like, are being glorified to an extent, and is that part of it where people want to always, kind of talk to you about the shine of what happened?
Absolutely. Well, humans have always been fascinated with the underworld, since Al Capone, and I got a lesson yesterday. I went to the Weinstein's office, and we're pitching a TV series, and the guy who pitched the series, he blew me away. When he laid everything out for me about I was connected to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Me connected to Vietnam, I was only 3 or 4 years old, but he showed me how it was all connected, and how the world is just fascinated with underworld people, people who are underdogs and fight their way up, by a shoestring. So,
right. Well,
it's human nature, I guess. That's what I would say. People don't like it, and even the people who supposedly don't like it per se in public, but when they see me behind closed doors, oh man, give me your autograph, so it's like a double standard, I believe.
Yeah. So what made you do the book, first off? You had a very telling lifestyle, and people have told about you in documentaries and films already, but what made you decide to go and participate in
I had a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So I was sitting up in my cell, and I'm reading a newspaper, and it was about Tookie Williams. Tookie Williams is from where I grew up at, and he was a legend in my neighborhood, and was somebody when I was around 11, 12, I wanted to follow. And when I saw that he had wrote a book that almost won a Nobel Peace Prize, I was like, wow, a dude from my area almost won a Nobel Peace Prize, man.
Yeah.
I wish I could do something like that.
Yeah.
And then it came to me that, hey, who knows more about drugs than you?
Yeah. As part in the preface, Bishop Noel Jones says that this is a testimony, and that you're also remorseful about some of the things that you participate in. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes, and I'm not, here to paint you in a certain way. But did the book do anything to kind of satisfy or to give back, or to try to?
It's definitely a give back book, I believe, but not to clear my conscience or anything. My conscience is clear. I'm happy with who I am. I love me. I'm not gonna beat myself up, for what I did. I did 20 years in prison. Not that played my debt to society or anything like that, because I ain't tripping off of that. Because there's so many other people out here that society glorifies, and and they probably kill more people than all the drugs combined have. Everyday household products. When you look into them and see the things that, like, I have a friend who's a football player, and he just went to the hospital the other day for diabetes, you know, because he's eating, you know, all these candies and Twinkies and sodas and, you know, things that are not healthy for us. So I'm not gonna let that I did in the past make it crucify myself. I'm not gonna do it.
What do you think about drugs in that sense? I mean, because before there was a DEA, there was a ATF, and we was, you know, tackling alcohol and tobacco, and you know, what do you think that it's more of a vice or a choice? And
absolutely, it's a choice. I mean, humans are not the only animals that get high. You know, monkeys, elephants look for spoiled fruit and certain berries that get them intoxicated. So it's kind of like a animalistic instinct, I think that's what you would call it. It's an instinct for people not to want to deal with reality, not to want to suffer. You know, and when people don't have jobs and they can't take care of their kids, they don't want to deal with that. You know, and as a black man growing up in this society, we're faced with that all the time. You know, nobody's hiring us because people hire people that look like you. We don't own businesses. You know, we can't go in the bank and get loans. So when you're dealing with all that, it starts to look hopeless, and then what you run to is a substance that'll take you out of that mindset.
There's been a lot of charges made from, or allegations made for what happened with the drug trade and targeting the black community. From what you just said, is it more that the black community was a perfect candidate to want to escape because of unemployment, or do you think that it was specifically put in certain neighborhoods to bring down the black community, if you will?
I mean, I don't know if that was purposely the purpose, but that's what wound up happening, is that it affected the black community more. Police targeted the black community more, even though they knew that we didn't use more drugs than whites, but it's harder to go in a white neighborhood and get a search warrant. You know, a judge is just not going to give you a search warrant to go in and see and kick in no door. But in South Central, they'll give you that search warrant to go in there, so it's easier to lock up blacks because most of them are standing on the corner selling, and you know, the jailhouses are full of young black men for nonviolent offenses, and they want to crucify the dealer for selling the drugs, but I'm here to tell you that Addicts made me the dealer, and a lot of people they can't phase that people came to me with money, saying, "Hey Rick, go get me some drugs. I didn't have drugs. Here, go get me some drugs." They taught me how to work a triple beam. School didn't teach me how to work a triple beam. No, Addicts taught me how to work a triple beam. Addicts taught me how to market cocaine, how to not get on cocaine. So, in a lot of sense, the addicts are just as responsible as the dealers, and I believe that the only way that you could justly fight a war on drugs is treat everybody equally, no matter how big, how small. I mean, if you're going to lock up a guy who because he's successful, you're going to turn around and give him a life sentence, but then the guy who gets caught with a 20 because he's using, you know, you give him probation, and then he goes right back out and he starts all over again, and then he starts to make another guy that's going to get a life sentence next year. Yeah. So it's like a treadmill that this system just keeps churning up young black men, and the way that it's being glorified on the radio and on TV now, you know, it makes it even worse, I believe.
You speak about it in the book where you say, like, you know, when you was growing up, you know, people didn't even know the effects yet, you know. So I mean, it was more of a naive choice, if you know, if you will, that people were saying, yeah, I'll do this, not knowing what that particular drug could lead to. And what was the culture around, I guess, drugs, that if music and stuff glorifies it now? I know that, you know, maybe some music spoke about it then, but what was the culture different? Was it glorified in the same way at that time?
Yeah, not the way it is now, but you know, it was a few songs, you know, I mean, one called White Lines, I don't know if you remember that one. Yeah. It was hot. What else? It was a few songs out that kind of leaned toward that, and then, you know, the whole Superfly soundtrack, you know, was was just like talking about a pusher man, you know, what a guy would do for drugs. And then Scarface came out after that, and Tequila Sunrise. So, you know, it was like perpetuating this lifestyle, saying that a guy could come from Cuba with no shoes on, and next thing you know, he owns the whole world.
Wow. I mean, another testimony to this book is that you admit to not being able to read when you came out of high school, or when you left Dorsey High School, and then when you learned in jail,
Yeah,
pretty much.
28 years old.
So to go from there to being, you know, not only free after a life sentence, where, you know, but also be an author, you know, how was that for you to, like, you know, be there and be able to conquer that demon, if you will, or that challenge or whatever?
Was kind of like one of my biggest challenges that I ever had, but faced in my life. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever read a book. First of all, I didn't see a purpose. You know, I didn't know where I would need to read a book at. You know, what would I do? What would I do with a book? You know, nobody never explained to me the value of a book. You know, that in a book, you could read a book in a week and you would get a guy's knowledge for 20 or 30 years, all of the information that he had gathered up and put in a book. And I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand that books could be road maps, treasure maps even. You know, I call some books treasure maps. So nobody never explained that to me to that extent. So I don't think I ever wanted to read. You know, I didn't really care what Jack and Jill was going up the hill for.
Yeah. Well, which makes it amazing that even as an enterprise, drugs and the image that it has, that you was able to succeed at the level. I mean, did it strictly really come down to numbers where you didn't need to have to read anything?
Pretty much numbers and science, you know, dealing with people, you know, treating people the way you want to be treated, analyzing who were going to be good people, who was going to be bad people, which ones was going to do the right things, that type of analyzation. And you know, once you master that, it's pretty simple.
You said that you was gonna using drugs as a lot of drug dealers, people have testified or admitted that they wanted to do it as a stepping stone and get away and do something clean. I mean, you see it depicted in movies and you hear people say it all the time. Like, what was some of the things that you thought you would do after you obtained enough money to do it, so to speak?
Well, you know, when I first started, it was just to pay for a few tennis lessons, fix my car up, you know what I'm saying, get my car going, and that was it. But it got going so fast, and the money started coming in so fast, and then my mind, money also buys knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, like people who wouldn't talk to you and you ain't got 10 cents, well, once you get 20,000, they'll talk to you, especially when you got 20,000 that you don't mind separating from yourself a few thousand. So it starts to buy you knowledge. So then it got to the point where I said, you know what, well, why don't I get me a business? You know, why don't I get a body shop? And I bought a body shop, and my mom had put me out, so I was staying with a cousin, so I started to go to motels every now and then, and I was like, wow, why not get a motel?
Yeah.
You know, why not get a beauty salon? You know, and it just kept growing, and you know, your appetite gets bigger as you get more money.
Well, I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about how you turned this into $1 billion business as soon as we return.
You know how they say that everybody has a purpose in life? Well, at one time I felt that selling cocaine was my purpose.
We was starving, just looking for a way to succeed.
The first time I seen rock cocaine was 1980.
Murder rate was sky high.
South of the 10 freeway was kind of a no man's land.
He said, you know, we're selling it to the blacks. He said, you go into these neighborhoods, there's no cops, you can sell it where you want, and when they start killing each other, nobody cares.
I was going through like $1 million worth of drugs just about every day.
That's like gold. We can make a fortune.
He was maybe the biggest guy in LA.
Rick, Freeway Rick.
Freeway Rick was getting his dope from a very big operator. I think we're into something that's bigger than us, something we really can't deal with.
They had been trafficking on behalf of the United States government.
She could prove what she was saying.
The story was mind-boggling.
When I was young, let me tell you how it was when I come from.
As I've said before, no drug network will remain alive.
There's a lot of people who think that, I made that whole thing up. What they don't realize is the CIA admitted it.
See, I didn't know until I was sitting in prison how valuable an education was.
Yeah, drugs suck. Drugs are really bad. But the drug war is worse.
You want to know a version of hell? Be the only guy playing straight in a dirty card game. And that's what the drug war is.
There are more people in prisons and jails today just for drug offenses than were incarcerated for all reasons in 1980.
Me being here is defying all odds. People don't get federal life sentences and beat them.
We've been spending billions and billions and billions of dollars every year on this war on drugs to find out that the government was involved. That's pretty astonishing.
Crack in the system.
This is Los Angeles.
Even if the government just turned a blind eye and didn't do anything about it, then you have to start questioning the whole system.